Hi, everybody. Welcome to I hate this month. It's very hard to say, February. When I was a young person back in the Jurassic, my favorite radio station had a DJ who didn't like saying February either. So he always called the month Marvin. So today is Marvin the Second. It's a palindrome day. So at 10:22 p.m. tonight, if you go by the 24-hour clock, it's going to be 2/22/22/22/22. And so Brian called it the Frank de Lima Day. So happy Palindrome Day. We have an agenda and we begin with the agenda. So if I could find it. Okay, so there's coming up February 18th is A'o Day. And A'o is a word in Hawaiian that means teaching and learning at the same time, which is really quite remarkable since that's exactly the enterprise that we engage in. It's not a one-way thing, it's a mutual thing. So there will be events on A'o Day. There's a link in the agenda. It's going to be focused on assessment, our very favorite topic. And it's all really sharing best practices, sharing results, sharing wonderful things that worked. And I must say, you guys, in my reading of tenure and promotion documents and contract renewals, I'm seeing a much different conversation happening about assessment as reported by those who are applying for those personnel actions. I'm seeing a lot more folks saying, we did this assessment, or I did this assessment and I made these changes to my course, or we changed the SLOs for the course. So I know it's happening and I'm so pleased. So do gather on February 18th to share with each other about what's been happening in your areas and what successes you've been having. Thank you, Jamie, for putting the URL in the chat. COVID-19 telework policy extension. By now, you will have received the message from the president, or was it HR? I cannot remember, but it was system-wide. And so yes, the COVID-19 policy has been extended to February 28th. During this month, we at this institution and all the institutions of the university are asked to put together our plans for permanent telework, which means looking back at prior semesters and prior years, 2017, 18, 19, which of those functions do people want to suggest are reasonable for permanent telework? Not related to the pandemic, nothing to do with the pandemic. It is absent the pandemic, what services do we deliver via telework, remotely? I've asked the deans and I've asked the unit heads to please put together their plan for their units. Now, again, we want to make sure that we offer in-person services. We expect students to come back to campus. We expect there to be an on-site presence. And so our services need to be available in person for students. So how will these units or these programs that offer services to students in a shared kind of environment, how are they going to schedule themselves such that their services are available in person during work hours for their students? Understand that telework is expected to be remote work between 7:45 and 4:30. That's the times that people are expected to be working. not talking about instructional faculty, not talking about non-instructional faculty who have duties and responsibilities that may be extended beyond those hours. We know that faculty do their work at all hours. I get that. But for those people who are expected to be in a particular location from 7:45 to 4:30, those are still the hours that they are supposed to be working for telework, and that they should be in a particular location which they identify, typically home, on their home island, all of those other constraints. So I expect those telework requests to come to me complete. So unit by unit. If you're a one-person office, then you send it up through the chain by yourself. But if you're in an office where multiple people work, I would like that supervisor to have all of those applications together. Each application requires minimally 3 documents. There's a request that the employee signs, that the supervisor signs, that I sign. No, supervisor doesn't sign, I sign. There's a work plan that the employee signs, that the supervisor signs, that gets forwarded to the program administrator. And there's a checklist for the employee to complete that says what everything is that they have in their home, that they can then do the work remotely. That's for most people, except for civil service, bargaining unit 3 in particular. That's a different policy. It's the state policy. It's a similar process. Once I have signed, all of that goes forward to my supervisor, who is the vice president. Same thing with civil service. They have more forms, however, that need to get signed by more people for more things. But it's the same thing. Those forms will eventually go to Erica for final approval. That needs to be in place by February 28th. So if I could get all of those documents from folks as a package, remember, unless you're a one-off person, I would like those things to me by middle of February so that we allow for the process to be completed by February 28th when this is supposed to be done. Now, what questions do folks have about anything that I've said? Really? Or are you typing in such a very long question that it's taking such a long time to put in the chat? Please do ask. This is not easy. It's not clear. It's very confusing. We're still waiting for guidelines. Annie.
I have a question. Will the vice president be making decisions like consistently for the different campuses, like based on position type? Or just does it depend on different things by each campus?
What I understand is that even among the vice presidents, because they are the ones and the four-year chancellors who are going to be making their final decisions, they are trying to calibrate about what kinds of things are you going to be doing? What kinds of decisions are you going to be making? All that I've heard from Erica is it's not about the person, it's about the function. Now, it might be on different campuses, those functions are delivered differently. So there may be some things that might impact how something is approved or not approved, or how it's delivered remotely. So I can't say for sure, but I do know that she is going to deliver to the chancellors a set of guidelines that we need to follow so that we can be consistent across the 7 campuses as best as we can. So I'm still waiting for those. I I'm hopeful that they'll come in soon because I really don't want to leave people hanging, and I can't make decisions until, or my recommendations until I see those guidelines, because I don't want to say yes to something that Erica is going to say, you know, that's not how we want to do things. So I do expect those to be shared soon. I hope, I'm praying. But that's a good question. We are trying to be as consistent. We're very aware of equity. We're very aware of consistency across campuses by function. It's something we talk about at every time we talk about how are we going to do this. It's really about making sure that we are equitable and as fair as we can be.
And will those guidelines go out to all the staff, or will it just be like?
I'm not sure about the dissemination, but I will, I hope I can share, because it's kind of like, you know, when you ask students to write a paper, but you don't tell them what the topic is and you don't tell them how they're going to be graded, it's kind of hard for them to guess. So I'm hoping that I can deliver those, maybe packaged from my point of view, specific to our campus, based on what she has, the parameters she's laid out for all of us.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Other questions? Easier to unmute than type. Okay, if you have questions, you know, be sure to ask. There is enough confusion without creating more. So try to get an answer. If you're not sure about your own particular situation relative to work conditions and your bargaining unit, please do consult your union or your union steward if that's more comfortable. Reach out. They're there to help. So get the answers that you need to hear from the folks that represent you. And you know, if you hear something different from what I've been saying, then let me know right away so I can correct. I go by the information that I have. I don't have a union, so I rely on you guys to let me know what's happening. Okay, again, if you have questions, send them my way. If I don't know the answer, I promise I won't make it up. I'll get the answer for you. Next on the agenda, which is something I call personification verification, but it's really participation verification. So Maria, this is your favorite thing for now.
I know, I love this. Okay, we are 100% certified for 764 classes.
Wow.
55 more to go, and that is spread out until April. So hopefully we'll get it to 100%. Another thing that I want to say about this is the form to request for the reinstatement form. Jerry worked with the system office to limit the staff so that students do not send me all of these requests every time. So it's now just limited to faculty and staff. So if your students come and see you and ask you for that, you're the only one who could request for that. So that's all. So thank you very much for everybody who worked really hard to get that 764 classes certified.
Amazing, really, really amazing. So thank you to the dedicated faculty who go through with this. It's the law. It's a good thing of obeying the law. Thank you to the department chairs who hounded and nagged and cajoled. And I don't know that anybody was coerced or threatened. Maybe Maria did that, but thanks to everybody who made that happen. If we get 100%, it's going to be going from worst to worst, worst to first.
Yeah.
And
Hoping.
a testament to the dedication. Thank you very much. Calvin, we're going to talk about your question in a second, but before that, Carol has something she'd like to share. Carol.
Maria, I'm
Oh,
Luis.
sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot to ask for questions. Sorry. Go, Maria. Go, Navaa.
Maria, can you explain why there's 55 more classes to go?
Because we have the second 8 weeks scheduled, and we have different pot codes for different disciplines. So we have like 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks that are left
Okay,
until the end of the semester. So some of them have not started, some of them are going to start in April. So we still have those.
okay.
So I'll keep on bugging you guys.
When
Also,
will you
thank you to the deans. I mean, they really pushed everybody to, I mean, the department chairs and everybody who really worked hard to get us to this point. Thank you.
Good. Maria, when
Yes.
is the day at which we're going to stop talking about participation verification this semester?
April 25.
Okay. Until April 25, we are going to be talking about participation verification for those 55 classes.
Yes.
Thank you. Eloise has a comment about certification. The directions on how to submit is confusing.
We got 100%. Okay, the form that was in the form that we had before, students could use it, and I do not know how they, it was on our website, but it was on the faculty side. So, but they used it to submit a request to be reinstated to the classes. But so they put their names and then they also approve it. So it has to be approved by the department chair, not the student, before it gets to me. So I kept on sending all of those back to the students and told them, please work with your instructor, contact them. They are the only ones who can submit this form. And then, so Jerry and I were talking about this. And so she asked that it be limited only for faculty and staff to be able to submit. So it's now at that point.
Right. Eloise, was that the form that you were talking about? Or there's a question about disenrollment. Maybe Jerry knows that one. Or do you know Maria too?
Oh, I don't know yet. Because until now, we're still getting people submitting for the to reinstate students.
Mm. Okay.
So it should be April.
Eloise, I just wanted to make sure that your concern was answered. The confusing form or the directions. Is that okay now? Okay. And Jerry says 91 students for pot code 1, which is the majority.
Yeah.
The information was confusing. Okay, for the teacher to submit.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see where I saw something else though. Candy has questions.
As always. Sorry about that. You know, a lot of students wanted to be re-enrolled after they were disenrolled. And it really caused a dilemma for a lot of my faculty because they were several weeks into and students hadn't done any work. And I basically told them it was the purview of them, right? They got to make the decision. But sometimes that didn't go without resistance from the students. And there was a lot of unintended consequences and bad feelings that took place because of this new policy. And I think students will learn over time, but there's concern and unintended consequences. And is that correct? That is correct. It is the purview of the faculty to make that final decision.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I just, I don't know if other department chairs saw any of the negativity that came from students that were very disappointed, you know, to be dropped.
But the students got messages too about making sure that they participated. Yes, I'm pretty sure they did. So they chose to ignore the messages that they got and then had to live with the consequences.
No, understood, but it is happening. And, I mean, I'm going to even have to go as far as, submitting students of concern because of the back and forth and just some unintended things that did transpire because of it.
Well, yeah, I think, if we did message the students more than once, I hope, then I guess that's a tough lesson to learn.
And we also
Yes,
have to
Hal.
consider what,
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
point, Hal.
what's in their best interest if, depending on the course. And I think that's why it's important that the instructor make that determination. In some courses, perhaps it would be easier for them to quote unquote catch up. Whereas in others, if you start out behind, you're never going to catch up. So I think that's why it's important for faculty to make that determination. You all know your courses best and know if the student, given the time that they decided to start participating, can actually make up for the lag of content information they've missed.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny, for confirming that multiple messages. And I don't know if that's something that Student Congress wants to get involved in at the beginning of the semester, reminding the students that, it's important that they show up and do something in their classes if they want to stay there. Yes, your newsletter, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, I rushed it through that, Maria. Are there other things? Statement in the syllabus? Yep, lots of things that, but again, if these are the ones that aren't paying attention, they're not going to pay attention to a lot of different things. But the more avenues there are for the message to get to them, make it inescapable, as Maria and the deans and the department chairs did with the faculty. That's what we need with the students too, it seems. That too, NSO, as many times as possible.
Yeah.
I think we'll get better, maybe. Hope so.
Hope so.
Okay, Carol, you wanted to say, I'm sorry I cut you off before.
That's okay. I want to announce a very important conference that is coming up. For those of you who may not know, the University of Hawaii does have a commission on the status of women. And this year we are holding a conference that's available to all faculty and staff. And if you have some students who wish to attend, they are invited as well. The conference is on February 24th and 25th, and it is a virtual conference. The main theme is the Year of Resilience. The conference is divided into 2 days in the mornings, and we have presenters such as the Dean from the Law School, Dean Camille Nelson. There are topics such as women and leadership. There are breakout sessions, panel discussions, Title IX and gender-based violence presentation. On the second day, human resource policies affecting women workers, documenting employment conditions of faculty, parenting, COVID-19 and gender equity at the University of Hawaii, the evolving role of advocates in the Title IX world, post-pandemic trends and considerations, and other topics. So I do encourage you to participate and to invite others to attend. And Naval, I don't know if you put that link up in the chat, but if you wish to find out more, you can go to uhcsw@hawaii.edu. And Darsh, thank you very much. He's putting the link up there. We do have 4 commissioners at Kapiolani Community College, including Darsh, Alyssa Kashiwada, Allison in the Chancellor's office, and me. Thank you very much for the time.
Thanks, Carol. And just a note on, just because the Dean of the Law School, Camille Nelson, she's new. She took over after the retirement of the longtime Dean Seufer, but she's Canadian. Just wanted to point that out. just to say. Okay, now we get to these questions that were put from you guys. There's also an announcement about the National Society of Leadership and Success. And Angela, is that still you?
Yes, that's still me.
Want to tell us about it?
Sure. I just mentioned it there because some students are asking if this is a legitimate honor society, and the answer is yes. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I also put a link in the notes that has a lot of information on it.
Thank you. Okay, so now we get to the questions that are brewing in the legislature. The questions in the agenda reference two bills. Well, actually, there are companion bills. At least one of them is companion, has two in the Senate and two in the House. So there are two bills currently just been proposed this session. One which is seeking a constitutional amendment to change the governance of the UH community colleges, making them a separate unit, separate from the university, have its own kind of whole infrastructure and setup, governance setup. And the other bill is a request to set up kind of a study to look at the advantages and disadvantages of the community colleges having their own president, with the university president, and then reporting to the board. Both of those bills were introduced this session, but it's not the first time that these questions have come up in the legislative sessions. Those folks who've been around for a long time may remember other such conversations starting at the legislature. These bills are part of the higher ed committee, and they have companion bills in the House. There was a hearing yesterday or Monday, I cannot remember which day it was, and the president provided testimony in opposition to the bill. So that's the official position of the university. There's already testimony that has been submitted by individuals. I didn't take a look at all of them, but there are some from faculty apparently, and at least one that I saw that was from a community member. So these bills have been introduced to really start conversations about the relationship between the community colleges and the university leadership, I believe. So I believe there's going to be additional hearings next week, Tuesday. So the administration's position is that the university is opposed to the bills. Then we have the bills about tenure, which are left from the previous session. They were introduced in the last session, and they were stalled at one point, and they are being carried over to the current session. Now, we had a lot of conversations last year about, would the administration provide testimony? And at that time, I said that my role is to implement Board of Regents policies. So while I may have a personal opinion, I cannot provide public testimony on my personal opinion because I am an executive in the institution and represent the institution. So that was problematic last time. But I do want to say that the whole life story of a bill is really quite important. And I know that many of you have very strong feelings about, it would seem, both the UHCC separation bills, and I know you guys have provided lots of testimony last session about the tenure bills, but I've asked Brian to help us understand a little bit and to provide us with an insight into how to track and read these bills that are really important to us. So if you don't mind, Brian, can you help us see how to look at these things? And Candy's got the thing, and I think that's the same one. But Brian, if you could just help us understand how to read these websites, the legislative website. And if you guys have any questions as we go along, please ask, because it's important that we all know how to read these things and follow the.
Okay, so if you guys want to follow along, so one of the most underrated websites in state government, I firmly believe, and of course my opinion is the legislative website, because a lot of what impacts us on a yearly basis actually occurred a couple of years ago at the legislature and is now hitting us today. So for those of you that want to follow along, if you just type in capital.hawaii.gov, that will take you to the state legislative website. It looks busy, and I'm going to share my screen. It looks very busy, but it's actually a chock full of information website. 3 years in, I just want to make sure everybody's looking at the legislative website. Yes. Right on my screen?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So there's a bunch of different ways. I'm going to break this screen down in a couple of different ways. First of all, this is where you're going to go on the left-hand panel. If you do nothing else, this is essentially where you're going to go. And the bills that I think Calvin had a question on, you can enter in your bill number. So don't forget your SB or HB, enter in your bill number, and it's going to take you to the measure. Or you can actually do a keyword search. Now, a lot of times, especially early on in the legislative session, you don't really know what the bill numbers are. So you're just going to type in the search. So for instance, tenure. And at the very top up here, you'll see Senate Bill 1328. This was a measure that was introduced last year. I can tell for a couple of different reasons, but it's too low of a number to have been introduced this year. Now, if you click here, PDF, this simply just takes you to the measure itself. But what you're interested in is, well, where is this thing? And this is the status page. Let me quickly show you, explain to you how this works. Obviously, at the very top of the screen here is your Senate bill. If you want to see the current version of the measure, you just hit this PDF button. This gives you all basic information about the bill, the title. There's a report title that's necessary for every legislative measure. Gives you a quick description. So this one limits the award of academic tenure to positions whose primary duties are instructional. Is there a companion to this specific bill? No. Not a so a companion has to start off word for word the same. Is it part of a package? So a package is, you have the governor's package, you have the Board of Regents package, you have all kinds of different Department of Health, Child Protective Services package, and that's what a package is. This is not a part of a package. And then there's a referral right here. Referral is the path that measure is going to take after introduction. So in this case, the coding is HRE, higher education, followed by the Judiciary Committee. So the bill got introduced on the floor, and then it was referred to first higher education. After higher education is piled with its work on it, it's made revisions, or maybe it just passed it out as is. It then goes and laterals to the Judiciary Committee. And then finally, introducers here. This also then gives you the life of the bill to date. So it was introduced in January 27th, 2021. It passed first reading, which is on the floor. It was then referred to higher education and judiciary. And then higher education had a public hearing on February 16th, 2021. The Committee on Higher Education, about a week later, deferred the measure. So essentially what that meant was they just deferred. They could defer for a day, they could defer for a week, they could defer until next year. So it's currently sitting in higher education. And that bills introduced last year then get carried over into the supplemental year, and that's this year, 2022. Okay, now on the right-hand side of this, this will give you every single version of this measure. So 1328 could be 1328 SD1, Senate Draft 1. Could be Senate Bill 1328 SD1, HD1. That would be Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1. They would all be listed right here. Any committee reports, and then finally testimony that's here, along with any hearing notices. So this is a basic look at a bill. Let's quickly go back to the main page here. So that was one of them. Now, one of the big things I think that people are talking about this year, and before I even go into it, this is not new. The issue about separating community colleges out, it's not new. It pops up, actually fairly frequently. And I think given the nature of where current events have taken us, firing of a football coach, the controversial hiring of a new football coach, people not happy with players transferring, people not happy with the university as a whole. So, the legislature, obviously, they're going to react and to current events. So let's quickly type in here, do a bill search, Senate Bill 3355. So this takes us to relating to the University of Hawaii Community colleges. And what this one does is it requires the Board of Regents to submit proposed legislation to establish a president of the CCs who shall be the head of the UHCCs and who shall report directly to the BOR of the University of Hawaii. Same thing, there's no companion here. It's not part of a package. And the referral was higher education followed by WHAM, or Ways and Means. That's the money committee. There was only one introducer here in terms of Senator Donovan De La Cruz. It was introduced, passed first reading, and then the referrals are right here. And then there was a hearing. This is the one Louise was referring to yesterday, 3 o'clock. The measure was deferred for decision-making until February 8th. Now, February 8th, the reason why I believe it was deferred to February 8th is February 8th is a decent size agenda with all UH bills, particularly I think 2 or 3 more dealing with the same thing. And how we can figure that out is we go to view the hearing notice. And all right, sorry, let me show what I just did. This is the hearing notice section. I just clicked on it. And this is, as you will see, all University of Hawaii. And this is 3355. There's 3354, which is very similar. Then they talk about the BOR and the previous 2. I don't want to.
But not tenure.
No, tenure is not on this one.
Right.
Tenure is not on this one. There's no hearings currently set for 1328, the first bill I covered. Any questions before I go any further?
There was a question from Angela about the capital letters and the lowercase. So I think I remembered from this morning was uppercase were the sponsors of the bill and lowercase were people who signed their names to the bill.
Yeah, so that's a great, so you'll have the introducers, Ange, and so this is not a good example. Actually, the previous one was a good example. Let's go here real quick. So this one has about 5 or 6 people on here, and those in capital letters are primary introducers of the measure, and those who are in lowercase or sentence case are just signed on as introducers. So basically, who's responsible? The people in caps. Okay, so that is how we look at a measure. Now, I think is, again, given where we're at, there's a lot of concern about tenure, there's concern about separating community colleges. And so some of you may want to, keep track. I would say even if I wasn't in government, even if I wasn't a vice chancellor for the community colleges in terms of administration, this is my thing. I worked in that square building for almost a decade. And, I have interest in what's going on politically. I would strongly recommend that you subscribe. So say there's a couple of, I don't know, 3 or 4 measures you're interested in, and you want to keep track as to where they're at. So you see these buttons down here in this middle section. Let's quickly go to measure tracking. And I am going to log myself in. You guys didn't see my password, did you?
Dots.
Okay, so under measure tracking, all you do is it's so simple. You just create a list here. I don't have anything because I let system offices more or less track for us. And I go Senate Bill 3355 and I add it. And let's just say I want to add now House Bill 1754. And I add it. And that's all I do. I just add however many bills I want to. And what'll happen is you're going to get a notice in your email as to here is what's going on with this measure. You can do that by measure, and you can do that by a hearing notification. So, I cut my teeth in finance, House Finance. And so I used to love to follow the House Finance Committee. So I click that box, click education, since I'm in the area of education now, and you'll get all of their hearing notices. So, again, as a regular citizen, as someone who's concerned about tenure bills, separation of the community colleges bills, I would recommend that you perhaps create an account and then, the information about these measures will come to you.
Brian,
yes.
question from Candy about if a bill is deferred, do they still continue taking in testimony on the bill, or is it over?
No, so that's a good question. That's a really good question. There's no we're not accepting testimony rule. However, your testimony is likely to get lost if there's no bill scheduled for it. And so I would strongly recommend you wait for the bill to be scheduled for hearing. Hawaii does have a 24-hour, sunshine law notice. 48-hour sunshine law notice. So, it's not a lot of time, but you'll get notified prior to that bill being heard. Now, if you want to, there's let me quickly back up and say this with regard to UH legislative process and policy. Please be mindful that if you are going to submit testimony, please do so on your own, not as Candy Branson, department chair, Kapiolani Community College, Candy Branson faculty, UH. And the reason why is their university wants to go in with one voice. So if you are going to be, again, submitting testimony, you'll get the hearing notification or you get your measure tracking notification, and then you submit testimony this way. And to submit testimony, you will have to create an account. Okay, so one final thing. So that's the middle section. Again, I recommend creating an account. Let's look at, you just need information on what's going on with the committee. So because we get so much attention from the Higher Education Committee, let's go to the Senate Higher Ed Committee. And this is all the acronyms, and I'll give you what the committee is. HRE is higher education. And so this is the chair, this is the vice chair. I think we all pretty much knew that already. This gives you a current list of measures that they have coming up. And interestingly, there is one that's coming up here. Some of you might be interested in this, relating to the president of the University of Hawaii system. And what this measure does is it prohibits the president of the UH from serving concurrently as a campus chancellor, as is currently the setup. Referral is higher education, then judiciary, introduced by Senator Kurt Favela, Chang, Kidani, and Kim. And so what's happening with this one is tomorrow at 3 p.m. They are going to have a hearing on this. So if any of you want to submit testimony on this particular measure, you would just do exactly like I had showed earlier by clicking on this testimony link. Questions?
I just
Yes,
want to
Vice
clar-
Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Maria Bautista. How can I help you? Your mic, though. I can't help you if your mic is.
Sorry. How do the bills get their numbers? Why are some 3?
Good question.
Others
Generally
one?
speaking, they get the number based upon how they come into the clerk's office. So there's 2 clerk's offices. There's the Senate side, there's the House side. As they get submitted to the clerk's office and officially submitted for introduction on the floor, they get a number. However, there are certain numbers that are set aside each year. So for example, there's always going to be a special number, House Bill 100, House Bill 1000 for the state budget. And if they can time it out correctly, you'll do executive budget, House Bill 1000, judicial budget, House Bill 1001, and then OHA budget, House Bill 1002. And then they'll just slot all the bills around it. The governor sometimes will ask for certain bill numbers. A few years ago, well, actually not a few years ago, 25 years ago, what was really hot in the legislature was medical marijuana. And you guys can guess what number came up.
April
It's-
8th.
It's
No.
the universal time for let's go toke up. And
10.
so it's
April 20.
What's that?
April 20, 420.
420. Correct. So and so for several years in a row, House Bill or Senate Bill 420 were used as a designated numbers.
Oh, that's somebody who's got a sense of humor. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I think it makes sense. So,
These numbers are not unique, not like our course numbers that you can't redo. You can't reuse the number for some other course because you have to specify what year of that SB, whatever the number is, because they keep reusing the same number.
that's right. The only thing that can't be repeated is in a 2-year span. Right? You're not going to be able to have 2 House Bill 100s.
All right.
Right? But after that 2-year cycle is over, once that one legislature has served its term, then a new one you'll restart all the introduction of numbers.
Very confusing.
I was just going to say how important it is because I had someone ask me to check up on a bill that was 2221 or 221. And if you just Google, it takes you to 2018, which is about posting bail. Whereas this year's, it's important to go to this site because it's actually about nursing.
Yeah.
Crazy. Candy, you had something to say.
I'm not sure that I'm clear still. So the testimony was due on Tuesday and then it was supposed to be heard and then it was deferred, right? So does that open for us to submit testimony again, or will that be 48 hours before? So I'm sorry, Brandon and Vice Chancellor, I just can't figure out.
Okay, so what bill you want to look at, Candy?
Well, just the one that they did about separating the university. So that was, which bill is that?
3355
5-4.
54.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what's going on here. Just repeating everything. This is your bill number. This is the actual version of the current measure. Title: Proposing amendments to the Hawaii Constitution to establish a Hawaii Community College system that is separate from the UH. And the description: proposes an amendment to the state constitution. It's no companion bill, not part of any package. And this is a tough referral. Judiciary and WHAM. So judicial and money. I'm gonna little bit editorialize. Judicial and money always slammed. Every major measure has to go through one of these or both of these committees. So higher education, which is also a very busy committee, And then now you have a joint. This is what that slash means. You have a joint judicial and ways and means. So law and money committee. And they only have about 2 or 3 joint hearings every year. And normally those agendas are 5 or 6 pages. So it was introduced, first reading, you got your referral. There was a public hearing yesterday at 3 p.m. The measure has been deferred until February 8th. So let's see what happened here. Sometimes they didn't get to the actual measure itself. So I'm going to go through here.
Hey, Brian,
Yes.
real quick, while
So-
you're doing this, does it really just come down to money? I mean,
No, not at all. So
seriously, because I think that's what faculty are most concerned about. We're in a money crunch. These bills seem to be about money and tenure and promotion and that whole thing. So I think that's what faculty are worried about. Since we are in dire straits, you are also, I mean, you're very actively involved in the legislature and bills and knowing what we're going to get, what we might not get. So, I mean, are you sure it's just not about the money?
I can't say. I don't know what the impetus behind anybody introducing, these measures are. I really don't.
Well, I mean,
I
Pagotto
don't
came
think
up-
this one, I don't think, Lisa, this one would be a money saver. This is a money pit.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, Mercado Kim came for us related to workload, right? I mean, that's where it began. And it seems like all these offshoots literally come back to, are we doing the job we're supposed to be paid for? They don't understand the scope and practice of some of the jobs, which is what we heard in the UPA meeting earlier. And I don't know, sometimes it just comes down to they wanna, they're funding us, right, at the end of the day. So, I mean, I'm sorry, that's my 5 cents, but I'm very happy that you're going through this whole process so everybody can learn how to track bills, because that is important. So anyway, I'm done, sorry.
Yeah. So Candy, this tells us kind of everything we need to know right here. The Committee on HRE has a scheduled public hearing on February 1st. That was yesterday. Conference room 229 and video conference.
So the question
Then-
is,
Okay, hold on. Let me, so I think this is going to answer your question. The Committee on HRE deferred the measure until, so they did not have the hearing on this measure. If in fact they had the hearing, we would say the Committee on HRE deferred the measure for decision-making until February 8th. They actually did not even hear this bill yesterday. So to answer your question, you can submit testimony.
very good.
So what are you going to do, Candy? Tell everybody.
Well, I don't think this is going anywhere, this particular one, but
Well, that wasn't what I was asking. I wasn't asking. You're going to first create an account.
oh,
Right?
yes. Yes, I have another question about that, but I'm probably
Okay.
driving everybody crazy in this meeting. But I have to say that I would absolutely start an account and do it on behalf of my department if my department wanted to be heard in that manner. And you're saying not to do that?
I'm sorry. No. If you want to follow a specific committee, a specific measure such as 3354, create an account. And the easiest way is that you're going to get notified when there's any type of action with regard to that measure.
No, but what I'm saying is right when you're writing testimony, like on behalf of my department, you were saying do it as Candy Branson, an individual, not Candy Branson. I mean, like you literally use my name. So
Yeah, no, correct. I mean, what we do ask.
However, I probably would be writing testimony on behalf of a department because it would have a lot more meat.
Could you say that I'm writing on behalf of other interested parties? Because you don't want to say I'm a faculty member at UH? Would that be okay, Brian?
I think it's perfectly fine to say you are a faculty member at the University of Hawaii. But what what government relations asks us not to do is to say Candy Branson, department chair, Kapiolani Community College. So there is a big difference, right? Definitely you're allowed to submit testimony and speak on any measure as a private citizen, but not in your capacity with the university.
Yeah, so Shannon is chiming in here, and we were actually encouraged to do it from department standpoints or what have you. So I'm a little confused to the discrepancies between the two.
Well,
Maybe
don't forget, Shannon,
Shannon,
what Shannon is saying here, though, is she's saying UPA did not mention, of course, because that's UPA. And so what I'm saying is that the university government relations asks us to remind our employees that by all means, please get involved, testify if you'd like to, and just be involved in the legislative process. But don't testify in your capacity with the university.
Before and we're running out of time, Brian, can you just show them the calendar about the lateral thing? Because that was really important about the bill about tenure.
Wait, so let me address Angie's question. That's exactly what I said though, Ange, right? You can definitely say you are faculty at the community colleges, but saying Candy Branson, I'm a faculty member, Kapiolani Community College, as opposed to Candy Branson, department chair, Kapiolani Community College. So there is a difference. Now, I will also say this. We understand that, especially in the American society, it is very difficult to separate what you do for a living from the individual. And you're going to, the one thing I think that Louise, nor I, nor government relations at UH wants to do is stand in the way of your opportunity to become involved in the legislative process. And so what I'm repeating to you folks is only a request, not necessarily a hard policy from the university. The bottom line is testify as you see fit, but we kindly ask you not to testify in your capacity with the university. So I'm sorry, LP, what'd you say?
I asked you to check the calendar because that was really important to know
Oh,
about
okay.
the lateral move, because especially for the tenure one, which is a carryover one, there's a hard deadline coming up for that bill.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so at the very top left, and this is critically important, that's the reason why they put it at the very top left. This is the legislative calendar. So before you get all confused, just look at purple and green, okay? Purple are important deadlines that may be different as it's specified in the title of the deadlines between House and Senate, okay? So for example, there is on February 9th and 10th, which is next week. Remember we talked about referral when you had a committee referral? A triple referral is 3 committees, has to see this. So there is a deadline to make sure that there is some action on triple referred buildings, bills, sorry, not buildings, bills on February 9th. Same with the Senate deadline of February 10th here. You'll also notice first lateral. So first lateral is you have a bill with its first committee. It's got to move by a certain date to the next committee. Now, if there's only one committee referral, say it's a pure money bill, they have the entire calendar to basically look at this. But if there's, again, 2, 3 committees on here, you're going to have to make movement here. Let's look at the green deadlines here. So the green deadlines are hard deadlines that are shared legislatively in both houses. So there is in Hawaii, the House always takes action on the budget first. They have a deadline to finalize its work, March 14th, midnight. It has to be decked, and that means finalized. Their work on it is finalized. The bill then gets heard on the floor here, and on the 16th, it crosses over to the Senate. The budget deadlines are different from the rest of the bills. There's a little bit longer. So if you see here on the 10th of March, that bill has to go from the House to the Senate. That's what crossover means. So lateral is internal, committee to committee. Crossover is the punt from one house to another.
And that's why the 17th and 18th, go back up to the February one, because that's relevant to the tenure bill. It has to go from higher ed to, what was the other one?
Judiciary.
Judiciary on that day, right?
Correct.
Why is there two dates?
There's a filing date, and then there's a
Oh.
lateral date, the
Okay.
actual action.
Okay, so that has to happen. That bill on tenure has to move to the next committee
Yeah.
on the 18th.
Yep.
And if it does not, then it's dead for this session.
Well, I'll say this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to confuse anything. Nothing ever dies.
Oh.
Nothing ever dies. The bill vehicle might die, but the idea, you're going to get maybe a certain senator who maybe doesn't really like us too much. And I'm not going to mention any names, but we kind of know who that is. This person might have certain ideas. I want to do this. I want to do this. And this is, for those of you who read the local paper, a couple of weeks ago, last week, actually, there were 2 different days. They had articles about, one was an editorial, one was an article about the gut and replace actions that legislative bodies normally do. So this person doesn't really like the university, has an idea what they want to do, has no vehicle, can then find a vehicle that is alive and well, gut and replace. So when we talk about an actual bill, I always tell folks, be careful not to get caught up in a bill number. Rather be concerned about the idea. And so if the idea, for example, is to create the separate University of Hawaii Community College system, you could fit that idea into a number of different measures. Anything that says relating to state government, anything that says relating to government operations, anything that says relating to operations. So, again, worry about the idea more than the actual measure itself.
Okay.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we've gone 2 minutes over time, but I really do appreciate, Brian, the walkthrough and sort of helping us get familiar with different bits and pieces of the website. These are really quite important and quite interesting to follow in this session. So we're all going to join and subscribe and be notified when these bills, when there's action taken on them. So thank you very much. And thank you all for joining us today at our campus Zoom. Our next one will be in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, keep watching the legislative calendar and all of the action there. And be good to each other and be good to yourself. Remember, do the things that bring you joy. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.